Welcome to another episode of Stericast, presented by Tomei Environmental Solutions. My name is Chris, the marketing manager here. We're here with a very special guest today, Dan Nestor, an outside consultant for our business development. He's an expert in the food safety industry. He has 35 plus years of experience in the industry with a lot of different technologies, and he's here to talk about Sterimist and what it can do for an industry that really needs a standard in their SSOPs. All right, so Dan, thank you for coming on. Welcome to the headquarters. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Dan, you've been working in the industry for 35 plus years in the industrial and commercial sectors, especially in the food safety with cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection, over the last couple of decades, concentrating in the food processing and healthcare sectors, bringing in different disinfection chemistries and technologies to the industry and really putting this industry to a new level. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you got here, companies you've worked for. I know you've had 5,000 plus clients. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that and how you got here.
Sure, absolutely. I date back to 1984 with a spraying systems company, the world's largest manufacturer of spraying nozzles and spraying systems and spraying technology. For 15 years I worked there, and I called on every walk of life when it comes to manufacturing. I could be in a nuclear plant one day, the next day I could be in a food processing plant. The next day I could be in a tobacco manufacturing plant. And for 15 years I learned how to apply not only chemistries, but you name it, fog, atomize. I like to call it the art of atomization. That's what we used to call it back in the day at Spraying Systems Company. And I did some math before I came in here, and yes, I visited over 5,500 clients in relation to not only spraying systems, but disruptive cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfection technologies, whether they be introductions, whether they be practical assessments, demos, things along those lines, yes.
Awesome. So talking about the disruptive cleaning, sanitizing, disinfection technologies, when you go into one of these facilities, who do you target and who do you want to talk to about this technology to get it in the door, to show people what they're missing out on, whether it's Sterimist or whatever you were selling in the past? Who do you like to talk to first?
Sure. The initial contact is, well, typically it depends on whether it's going to be a piece of equipment that you're introducing, a chemistry that you're introducing, or a combination thereof. And that's what's nice about Sterimist, is it's a perfect combination thereof when it comes to an applicator and chemistry.
Right.
But backing up to equipment in the very beginning, especially when it comes to food processing plants, I always like to start at a level where the people that have to use it daily, they're the ones I want to talk to first. Even though I prefer, it's going to come down to the C-suite people making the decision, I prefer to start with the hands-on people, because they're the ones you have to convince first. And they can also be the ones that do the most damage to your reputation also.
Also true.
Yes. So that being said, it would be sanitation managers.
Sure.
I love working hands-on with not only the sanitation managers, but the crew. And a lot of third shift stuff I've done over the years. Many third shifts spent with the sanitation crew. Water conservation was something I did. Sanitation surveys I did. Water conservation audits, things along those lines back in the day with Spraying Systems Company.
Sure.
And then it delved into these new disruptive technologies that are very prevalent today, like vapor steam technology and things like that.
And also Sterimist coming into the
Sterimist
into the industry.
Exactly, and it's a different animal, because what you really want to talk to more along the lines of the science people pertaining to quality assurance, quality control. That's who I focus on now. Eventually, when practical assessments come into play, there's no doubt about it, the sanitation supervisors will have to be involved, and
right.
That's the kind of hands-on experience that I enjoy, not only from the standpoint a practical assessment. Some people call them demo, but also from the standpoint of training and service.
Right. Absolutely. So when you were in equipment, what have you seen in other technologies in your previous experience? What have you seen in Sterimist that maybe that you might not have seen in previous technologies, specifically pertaining to hydrogen peroxide and other sorts of
Sure.
not necessarily chemicals, but other.
Well, it's real important. I've told people for decades now that when you're applying, especially when it comes to chemistry, let's just focus on that for a moment. If you're applying chemistry, the most important part of that process is the nozzle. Okay, and you got to get the nozzle technology correct before you go anywhere else, and that could be anywhere from air atomization to air assisted to strictly hydraulic. All those things blend in depending on what kind of chemistry you're trying to use. Whether it be, I've worked with, when it comes to hydrogen peroxide, I've worked with vapor hydrogen peroxide, I've worked with accelerated hydrogen peroxide, I've worked with a very high concentrated foam hydrogen peroxide, which was kind of crazy. I've literally fogged plants, and I've literally foamed plants with hydrogen peroxide. So it basically comes right down to the applicator. And that's kind of where Sterimist separates itself from the competition.
Right.
I don't care if you're discussing a spray bottle, an electrostatic sprayer, a sophisticated nebulizer, if you will. That's the kind of effect you get from the Sterimist unit, a nebulizer effect, which is very critical when it comes to particle size, the droplet size of the chemistry and how it reacts on surfaces, certain surfaces. That all comes into play.
Generally, what do these companies look for when they're going into a new disinfection product or a new sanitation product? Because we've been finding that they're not looking for anything. We don't need to add to our SSOP. We don't need to have a 6-log kill. We don't need, et cetera, et cetera. What do these companies look for, and what do you tell them that they need to do when you're pitching Sterimist or pitching Sterimist to these companies?
Well, this you have to take it into context of a HACCP plan, right? So that most people that will listen to this podcast will know what a HACCP plan is. It's hazardous analysis of critical control points, and that's where the SSOPs come in, sanitation standard operating procedures, right? And typically they're anywhere from 5 to 8 steps in the process of cleaning. Cleaning takes in sanitizing. Right. Depending on what discipline you're dealing with when it comes to sanitation, shift, sanitizing. I don't want to say sanitizing, I want to say cleaning, because that's part of sanitizing, is part of cleaning. It's real important that you know the application you're going into. You could be in a dry environment like candy and confectionery, or bakery environment. That's an entirely different set of steps versus protein. Okay, if I'm in a poultry plant, that's different. If I'm in a swine plant, that's different. If I'm in a beef plant, different. Slaughter plant, so forth and so on. A lot of water is being used in the sanitation process with sanitizers. It's just a small percentage of sanitizer being used, and they deluge the equipment with it. That may be the sanitation step, one of the last. In some efforts, it's basically a mist, if you will. Sometimes it's a fog. Sometimes that's a periodic thing, a fog. It really depends on the discipline, and by discipline I mean what are they producing at what level at the plant that day.
Right. Gotcha. So let's go back to the applicators real quick, and because you can buy, like you were saying, spray bottles, spray nozzles, whether it's aerosol or hydraulic or what have you. What have you noticed? Obviously Sterimist uses a cold plasma arc that splits the hydrogen peroxide into hydroxyl radicals. So that's what sets us apart from other sanitizers, decontamination, disinfection technologies. What have you seen benefit-wise as far as material compatibility and ease of use and quickness of use versus those other technologies?
Yeah. One of the first, I'm glad you mentioned the cold plasma, because that's the key to this all. Very safe, okay, very, very safe. But the cold plasma piece, along with the what I call the nebulizer effect. Therefore, how do you get to that result? Well, you get that result by compressed air, correct? So what is happening with the Sterimist unit is, number one, you are using a chemistry that's based on hydrogen peroxide, very low concentration, which is ideal. But because of the cold plasma arc, converting it, we're looking at what I call hydrogen peroxide. It's almost results of hydrogen peroxide on steroids, but it's really not hydrogen peroxide at that point after it's converted, right? Yep. Hydroxyl radicals.
Yep.
And that's key. That's important. Most people realize what they do, killing on contact. And if you look at this as a process, you can't look at it just as a chemistry or a piece of equipment. Without the two working together, you wouldn't have those results.
Right.
And increasing that concentration on the hydrogen peroxide side wouldn't do you any good either way.
Correct.
The best thing is the low concentration. Therefore, as we talk about the desired attributes in a sanitizer, right? The last two that everyone wants to find: non-corrosive. Well, let's just go from the beginning. Low toxicity, fast-acting, broad spectrum of activity towards microbes, powerful penetration, material compatibility, non-corrosive, not harmful or offensive odors. Right. And the bit technology, it falls under every single one of those.
Absolutely.
And for me, the key is really contact time in a lot of cases for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to us for the first time, or if you're unfamiliar with our technology, our cold plasma arc and our low percentage bit solution with hydrogen peroxide, we send that hydrogen peroxide through a cold plasma arc, and then it splits that hydrogen peroxide molecule into hydroxyl radicals. And what those hydroxyl radicals do is, right when they hit that microbe or biofilm, it breaks it down on contact. And it's a naturally occurring, not phenomenon, but it is phenomenal. It's a naturally occurring science. So when lightning cracks through the sky, that creates a hydroxyl radical. That's why it smells so fresh and clean after a lightning storm, is because it naturally oxidizes the air. It splits those oxygen molecules, just like the cold plasma arc that we use splits the hydrogen peroxide molecule, which leads to that instant kill, which leads to quicker drying time, which leads to more production time, which leads to more money and more efficient use of your shift time, which is what a lot of these people are looking for, I would imagine.
Yes, no doubt. It's all about outcomes, Chris. And I repeat this when I first make the introductions, because a lot of people, they're not used to hearing hydrogen peroxide in the food processing end of things when it comes to sanitizers, let alone disinfection. Right. And they also are keying on a 5-log reduction sanitizer. That's really all they care about. And when you want to introduce something that's going to give them a 6-log, most, especially when it comes to quality assurance, quality control people, they get that big difference between a 5 and a 6-log, between sanitizing and a disinfection process. But I like to tell people, when it comes to, again, harping on the process piece, it's a combination, literally lethal combination of the applicator, okay, which includes the cold plasma arc, and the chemistry. Right. It sets this, apart from your best. Again, when it comes to chemistries, you could be looking at some really good chemistries like high percentage alcohol, chlorine dioxide, electrochemical activated water. Those are all good chemistries, and they're all being applied by some fairly decent applicators, if you will. For instance, your electrostatic spraying systems, things along those lines. But every single one of those have a drawback. some minor, some not so minor, some much more than minor. But when it comes to what Sterimist is offering, that's the real key. It's the combination of both that makes it lethal.
Absolutely.
And what it creates the outcomes that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Creates those outcomes quicker, more efficiently, and anybody can use it. You don't have to have a specialized sanitation service coming in or a sanitation department that needs to be specialized and trained on this stuff. Anybody working on the floor in these food processing plants or production facilities can be trained in 30 minutes. Now you're getting the 6-log kill with either, if you want to throw the Steripack on your back and walk around the whole facility and surface disinfect, or you can set up our environment system and completely fog the whole area, and you're getting that kill just like that. And you don't have to teach anybody special to do it. You don't have to pay extra money to bring in more people. Literally anybody can use it.
No, that is key. What's key? Two things there are two things about that are key. One is the common area approach. We're not only talking about food processing areas, where where not only food contact surfaces, but the infrastructure itself.
Absolutely.
There are I not only have fogged plants and foam plants, but specific pieces of equipment like what was the one I went to? Oh, spiral coolers, for instance, and they can be in a lot of different disciplines. They could be in a bakery, or they can be in a candy confectionery plant, whatever. Things like that, where if you apply this type of technology, it's just like perfect for that. I don't want to call it adjunct or alternative. I think this is the complement to a SSOP that you're using right now.
For sure.
More of a complement, more of a necessary complement. Right. I think is the way to look at that. But reverting back, so that would be your sanitation shift worker using the equipment then for specific targets, if you will.
Right.
The common areas, that could be anybody. That common areas are key also from the standpoint, this is the post-COVID, stuff we're going through. There's going to be another pandemic. I'm not going to tell you it's coming in 13 months or 33 months, but there's going to be one. Absolutely. And hopefully we don't have it, but if it occurs, those common areas are key. Yep. And when I say common areas, I'm not just talking about, when you walk into the front door in the visitor section, not that common area. I'm talking about common areas where people, focus a little bit of their time, like the locker rooms, for instance, and the restrooms in the locker rooms. And where else would you? Oh, maintenance shops. That's another place where not just one maintenance worker gets together. There's maintenance crew that are similar in size to sanitation crews. Yep. And they get together in a maintenance shop. If you have the ability to disinfect, not sanitize, disinfect those areas, it can do nothing but enhance the overall idea of sanitizing a plant. Right. Locker rooms. So what was the other one I wanted to mention?
Break rooms or cafeterias.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Anywhere
key too, because you're going to have 30 minutes where a bunch of people are hanging out, trying to get their nourishment in, and then right back to the floor. So that would be key in my opinion. Anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a full facility. Excuse me. Full facility disinfection, whether it's the floor, common areas.
And generally speaking, most sanitation supervisors and/or even quality control people wouldn't think of. They're doing it. Don't get me wrong. They're making sure these things are deep cleaned, right? And deep cleaned is going to be part of. There's going to be a sanitation step in there.
Absolutely.
But not a disinfection step. Right. And that sets it apart.
Right. Yep, we can do both. So you mentioned bakeries and candy and confectionery. Have you worked with candy production? Have you worked with bakeries? Anything that we might recognize?
Yes. I've worked with them all the large players. I've been in many plants all over the world. From probably, I don't want to say the vast majority, but probably the majority of Hershey plants in between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. I've been involved with, and there's equipment existing today because of my problem solving skills when it comes to sanitizing, with belt cleaning systems, things along those lines. Most of it, the majority of it, based on vapor, steam, and extraction. Some of it just vapor steam for specific target cleaning and sanitizing in one step. Fantastic, fantastic technology for sanitizing. Bimbo Bakery, I'll name another large Bimbo Bakery. Is the largest bakery concern in the world by far, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. And we have a plant here in Frederick, so
yes,
that's pretty
yes,
cool.
Absolutely. And they have equipment that I help install and train there. Very for cool. belt cleaning, and for specific target sanitation. So, and they're considered dry, in most cases, dry applications. Where Sterimist comes into play for that is the quick drying end of things, the quick kill, all that, everything we already discussed. But Sterimist lends itself to every other discipline out there when it comes to food. And it could be something as critical as grow out in the poultry industry, believe it or not, on the farm.
Yep.
All the way to a deboning plant for poultry also. And you can look at swine the same way. You can look at beef the same way. There are so many opportunities out there for a added solution that can be put on the back end of an SSOP that is just going to create a lot of let's say a lot of happy people, a lot of good well-being. Yeah,
sounds like it. And speaking of the farms and poultry, we've been hearing nothing but problems with the avian flu. It's going to be a huge problem in 2024. It was already a huge problem through 22 and 23. And so can you talk about a little bit of your experience with the avian flu and with coming through farms and having Sterimist try to mitigate those problems?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The 2024, the way it's looking right now, especially the last 2 months, 2024 will be the worst year on record for avian flu, more than likely. I would be surprised if it's not. And avian influenza is nasty. We're going to have tens of millions of birds that are going to have to be culled and put to death, unfortunately. With it being so bad, there's a lot of different things you have to look at on the farm. One of them is transportation. We talk about transportation, and people don't think, well, what do you mean transportation? The trailers that bring the poultry? Yeah, sure. The trailers they have to show up at the farm first, right? So transportation vehicles, even the cabs of the vehicles should be disinfected. The cages that the birds are in also. Even in the grow out houses where you have, in the summer months, especially a lot of very hot areas with high temperatures, there are cooling pads that cool water gets sent through pads, misted, if you will, to keep the poultry cool. Right. All of those opportunities are perfect for Sterimist.
Yep.
Okay. And now some may not relate to avian flu, but the transportation piece, the vehicles, also what people are donning and doffing at that level, where they're putting on their work clothes and things along those lines.
Right.
So the clothes, the boots, the bootwear that they're using. Not only transportation vehicles, but the trucks the pickup trucks that they're riding in and out, their own personal vehicles, things like that. All those can be specific targets, if you will, for the Sterimist.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're hoping to help a little bit with that, but it's already started, so hopefully we can try to mitigate that a little bit. And based on what you're saying and based on our technology, it sounds like there's a lot of parallels between the life sciences industry and the food safety industry. So we were really talking about, 6 log kill. That's pharmaceutical grade disinfection. A lot of these facilities are using the same style of equipment as a life sciences, a pharmaceutical laboratory. I know we traveled to Mayorga Coffee not too long ago, and we got to see their incredible production floor, and they're using Sterimist on their stainless steel, on all of their tiny little intricate piping. So it's, why wouldn't you want pharmaceutical grade disinfection on all of your equipment? With the push of a trigger, point and shoot, and you're getting a 6-log kill. Some people may not feel that they need that, but if it's easy enough to do, if the technology's there, why not pick it up and why not use it?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the real issue, right? This goes back to the 1960s, if you will, where HACCP was developed with the actually NACCP program. So HACCP, HACCP itself was developed back then. And people have pretty much been doing the same thing through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and the early 2000s. When it comes to sanitation standard operating procedures, meaning those steps, because they've always pretty much gotten where they need to be with those 7 steps, if you will, whether it be a wet or dry process. And until there's a problem, until there's a food recall, until there's some hot spots. I've dealt over the years on what a lot of the people in the industry will call hot spot, meaning they're having microbes develop there and they can't figure out why, for, and how to get rid of them. And that's pretty much been my bailiwick over the years, how to help with that, whether it be vapor steam, for instance, or whether it be before vapor steam, it was very high. It was 148-degree water, high pressure water, low flow type applications through a manifold system or through a nozzle, if you will.
Yep.
But getting people to change, or getting people to say, this complements everything I do, even though I'm doing things the right way, nothing's perfect. This complements it. I'm not trying to replace, you're never going to replace the sanitizing chemistry that's out there because of the cost, quite frankly. Most of the chemistry out there now is very, very inexpensive. And it gets chlorines, things like that. It gets the job done. Now, there may be some other problems with those, when it comes to compatibility and metallurgy and elastomers and things like that, where you don't have that with Sterimist. It does not happen. But it's a mindset that has to be changed, and you have to show them where the return on investment comes, and that's probably as important as anything.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming in today and speaking on Sterimist and telling everybody about the great benefits in the food industry. As a food safety expert, is well known in the industry. So I appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure, Chris.
Absolutely.
Good seeing you again, pal.
Good to see you. So if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and follow us on social media at Tell Me Mist on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching.